In this video, I'm going to demo a couple different ways that you can use your Mochi or gigantic stamper. You can check out my unboxing video to see what you get when you purchase the gigantic stamper from bornprettystore.com. The cool thing about this stamper is that since it's clear, you can stamp as usual as you saw in my unboxing video, or you can do a couple different stamp methods, like stamping multiple abstract designs on several nails at a time, maybe 5 or 6 nails, or you can make decals with regular polish. We're going to try those two things today because these are the two areas where this type of stamper really excels. To stamp multiple abstract designs on several nails very quickly, you will need your stamping polish, your gigantic or Mochi stamper. You'll need your big plate. You'll need a scraper, and also have on hand some acetone, cotton pads, and your lint roller just to remove the excess polish after you're done off the stamper. On my nails, I have 3 different colors of gelish. I have Oh Parachute on the ring or middle finger and thumb, and my other 3 fingers have 2 coats of Runway for the Money topped off with 2 coats kind of at the bottom, not all the way to the top, of Shake Your Money Maker. So what we're going to do is just stamp on these 3 nails on each hand. So you'll prepare your plate, make sure it's nice and clean, and get out your polish. And since you're going to be doing several nails, you want to apply a lot of polish. And this is kind of the tricky part, trying to get all this polish on before the whole thing dries up. You have to work very quickly. Okay, once you've got that on there, quickly stamp down your gigantic stamper to pick it up. And there it is. So really fast. We're not doing anything particular here. We're just picking up, whoops, I got the wrong one. We're picking up any polish we can, and I'm going to end up doing, looks like I can probably do at least 3 nails here. I'm going to try to do them all. That's 5, and actually that might be 7. So I got 3 on my right hand, and I accidentally did the middle finger on my left hand as well. But you can see I got all those nails done with just 1 press down in the stamper. And the nice thing about working with gel polish as your base layer is if you were to do something like that where you made a mistake, you can simply take your acetone and just very quickly wipe it off. Not a whole lot was left. I got 7 nails done, and that was only from using basically this portion of the stamp. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off my stamping plate. When you clean off your stamping plate, be really careful not to get any of the acetone on any of your finished nails. A lot of people use tweezers or pinchers to make sure that they can hold the cotton without getting any of the acetone on their fingers. To clean off the actual stamper, I just take my lint roller, go like that, and it's clean. Now let's talk about how to make multiple decals on your gigantic stamper using your large plate. And this is for the reverse stamping method. What I like to do is stamp the large design from a large plate using black stamping polish, and then kind of color or paint it in kind of like a coloring book with as many colors as I'd like. So I'll show you how to do that. And in the past, this may have been done with your small stamping plates, your circular ones, and you could buy multiple clear jelly heads, and you could use one jelly head for each nail decal that you were going to do. But with the gigantic stamper, we no longer need to do that. We can just make them all on one stamping head. So what we'll do is use the other side of the plate. This is a Born Pretty Store plate, BPL 002. And again, you will pick up a lot of polish and start to put it on. I recommend, if you're going to do this a lot, that you buy the larger size black polish or white polish, whichever one you prefer. I find that those two are the best for making these types of designs. Okay, so we're going to very quickly pick that up onto the stamper. And there you can see I've got my image. And what I'm going to do is just set this aside for maybe 10 to 20 minutes, and we're going to let it dry, and I'll be back in a few minutes. It's been about 10 or 12 minutes now, and I've let the design that we stamped on the gigantic stamper dry for that time. In the meanwhile, I cleaned up my area and I top coated all my nails that we have just stamped, and I picked out several polishes to start coloring with. So what we're going to do with this step is we've basically got this image. Like I said, it's like a coloring book, and you can see like there's a flower here, a flower over here, some leaves at the top. So what I'm going to do is just take the colors that I've picked out and start coloring it in. What you might want to do is pick out a part of the design that you know you want to go onto your nail. So for me, that's going to be these leaves up here. I know I want those on one of the nails, so I'm going to start there. You can use the paintbrush that comes with the nail polish if that works for you, or you can get a very fine paintbrush like a nail art brush or regular like art brush and work with that if that works better. I find that most of the time you can get pretty precise or precise enough with the brush that comes in the polish. So what you'd want to do is just what I'm doing here, basically start with one color and paint what you want to paint, and then if you need to let it dry and come back with another color, you would do that. So let's say I wanted to do like a brown or a white in here. I would just let this polish that I just used dry for a few minutes and then come back in with my next polish. And then what we're going to do, once you have it all colored in, you're going to let it dry for at least an hour, I would say, if not more. Sometimes I will actually plan this out and make my design one night and then actually apply it the next night. So you have basically overnight to let everything set. When you're doing this, try to keep the polish as thin as possible, and the reason for that is that later on when you go to apply this to your nail, if it's too thick, it's going to get kind of crinkly or brittle and it won't be as flexible and easy to apply. Also keep in mind that you're doing this in reverse order, so whatever color you laid down first is going to be showing up at the top of the design when you flip it over. In other words, it's going to be at the top of the nail, and then underneath it will be the other colors that you've applied later. So I'm going to let this purple that I just applied dry. I'm going to come back later and put another color underneath, and that color, unless the first layer that you put down was really light and the bottom layer is really dark, you're not going to see the bottom layer through the top layer. Okay, we're back, and I've allowed my decal that I made to dry for several hours. So the cool thing about the Mochi stamper, or the gigantic stamper I should say, is that you can actually just remove this very very carefully. Usually what I would do for this part to remove the decal from the stamp head, I would use tweezers to pull up the edge and then just peel the rest up with my finger. I think there are a couple different ways that we can do this at this point. We can do the tweezer method. We can also, if we just bend the stamper head a little bit, since it's such a large head, you get some flexibility to it, and you can see the edge. Now what I did to make this decal, I showed you the painting process, and then I came in and applied a clear coat over the part that I want to keep, the two parts actually that I want to keep as a decal. So what I'm doing is just trying to remove this without cracking it. And I would recommend, if you can, like I said earlier, take some time to make, to do this whole process, and go ahead and make some backups for yourself, just in case something were to rip during this process, which it has a little bit right here, but I think we might be okay. And you just have to be really gentle. Now I've seen people take the stamper at this point, apply a fresh coat of top coat to it, and just stick it onto their nail. I think that's another option. But for me, my tried and true method of creating the decal is like this. So here I've got the decal, and what I want to do at this point, this is actually two of them, so I want to get some scissors and cut them apart. I'm using the stamp head as a base still to kind of support the decal. And I'm just going to very carefully, anytime you're working with sharp objects near your stamper head, you have to be really careful, because with the tweezers even, you can stab the stamper by accident and gouge it. So I'm just cutting this apart, and it should be okay. If you put a nice thick coat of clear coat, it should hold it all together. I'm just cutting away most of the excess, and now I have this ready to apply to my nail. And then my other one is right here. I'm just going to remove the excess. Now that you have your decals ready, you can apply them to your nail. You will need your top coat, some acetone, and an orange wood stick, or possibly this silicone brush. And those are for applying and for cleanup. So what we're going to do, I'm going to apply it to this nail, and I've chosen to use the smaller of the two decals on this one. I've just left it resting on the stamper. So I'm going to take my top coat first and apply a nice even coat, and this will act as your adhesive for the decal onto the nail. So what you do, it's really easy at this point. Make sure you have the appropriate side that you want facing up, where you can see all the black, and just lay it down on the nail wherever you want it. And just start working from the center outwards, pressing it down gently. Now that top coat is going to grab onto the decal, and it should make it a little pliable. I'm going to try my silicone brush here and see if I can use that to gently get out any air bubbles. Then, once you have all your air bubbles worked out and everything is flush, you'll start to do the cleanup process. By this point, the nail should have started to dry, so it's almost like you're just pressing into the edge and cutting the decal. cutting away the excess, using that acetone to melt the extra off. And I usually do the sides first, and then I start to go in to the tip. Okay. And once we have that squared away, you can use an acetone soaked pad to get any excess that was left behind. Just wipe that off. And now what we'll do is simply apply another top coat, and I'll be using Gelish Top It Off as my top coat, and I will then cure it as usual. You can also just use your regular nail polish top coat.